Hello, my name is Carter Kirchhevel, and I have a show called Catching Up with Carter on Thursdays from 10 to 11 a.m. on Saddleback College Radio 88.5 HD2. Check out and subscribe down below if you'd like to see more recordings of this show and to see my NFL and college football takes.
Did you miss your football games this week? Do you need to catch up? Welcome to Catching Up with Carter here on Saddleback College Radio. Thursdays at 10, he will recap it all.
Hello, my name is Carter Kirchhevel, and you're listening here on 88.5 HD2 Saddleback College Radio. We're just listening to Gangster's Paradise by Coolio, and today we are going to be talking all NFL. So welcome to Catching Up with Carter, where we recap all Los Angeles sports. We will cover the Rams, Chargers, Raiders, and 49ers games, and for college, we will cover USC, UCLA, and of course, Saddleback College Football. It was a very exciting weekend of NFL football, very exciting games for the Rams, Chargers, Raiders, and 49ers, and USC had an amazing game, and we will recap all of those in the upcoming minutes. Our next song we're going to be listening to is Sunflower by Sway Lee and Post Malone. You are listening to 88.5 HD2 Saddleback College Radio. My name is Carter Kirchhevel, and we will be back in a few minutes.
Rams, Chargers, 49ers, Raiders, USC, UCLA, and of course, Saddleback Football. He covers it all. It's Carter Kirchhevel, your Saddleback student sports voice.
Hello and welcome back. My name is Carter Kirchhevel, and you're listening to 88.5 HD2 Saddleback College Radio, Catching Up with Carter. And today, we are first going to be starting off with the NFL, where we had some amazing games this weekend. Of course, we had Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. But we're going to be starting with Sunday night football with the Rams. Now, going into the Rams, we had a prediction. They played the Lions on Sunday Night Football, and our prediction was 24-21, the Lions were going to win. And I believe that we had a prediction where it was 26-20 final Lions. And so we're going to go through a little quick game recap. So the Rams, their first drive looked very good, went down the field. They scored a field goal to start 3-0, looking like it was a very good connection between Puka and Matthew Stafford. Then the Lions, they also had a great drive. It was 3-3. Then the Rams, they go for it on fourth down in their drive to try to bring this game back into their favor, but they turn the ball over on downs. Gibbs does go down and score for the Lions, making it 10-3. Then Stafford, right before halftime, he throws an interception in the red zone, leaving the score at 3-10 at half. At halftime, we found out that Puka Nacua, he is going on IR as he had an injury, a horrible injury, but Cooper Kupp stepped it up in this game. So Lions, then after halftime, they threw a bomb to Jameson Williams for a touchdown, bringing the lead to 17-3. Very just sad game for the Rams at this point, but the Rams just decided it was their game to win, as Kyren Williams then scores a touchdown, bringing the game to 10-17. The Rams get a stop, get the ball back. They get a pass interference penalty in the red zone to score again, which is 13-17 off of a field goal. After that, Goff threw an interception, which meant that the Lions were they were just not having any momentum on their side. The Rams had the momentum. Kupp scored a touchdown to take the lead 20-17, but then after that, the Lions went all the way down the field. They got to tie it at 20, which meant it was going to overtime. These matchups between the Lions and the Rams are just so incredible. I don't understand how it always happens this way. The last one in the playoffs was amazing. This one was amazing. This was the game of the week, in my opinion, but it went into overtime, and the Lions got the ball first. That's all that it was. The Lions got the ball first and ended up winning that coin toss and winning the game. They went all the way down the field with David Montgomery, scored a touchdown, 26-20. Just an amazing game to watch on Sunday Night Football. But for fantasy football owners, if Jameson Williams for the Lions is not picked up in your league, you need to rush. Get him. He had over 100 yards during this game, while Amon-Ra only had 15. I believe it was 15. But Jameson Williams, if he is not picked up, you better pick him up. And the next game that the Rams play, they play the Cardinals, and they play at 105. This game should be interesting. The Cardinals had a good game game this last week. Marvin Harrison Jr. was not involved, but for the Cardinals, I do believe that they're going to have a good game, but I do believe the Rams are going to take this one. I believe they're going to get their first win of the season. Tough first loss in overtime. Even with Puka Nacua out, Cooper Kupp showed that they don't even need Puka Nacua because Cooper Kupp is that good. I believe 24-21, the Rams will win. Now we're going to be moving into our next team, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, moving into the Chargers, this game was one of those ones that I said you don't really need to watch, which it still kind of was. Watching this game was a little bit of just not really good football, I'll say, for the first half. Chargers did step it up in the second, so our prediction was 20-13, and the final score was 22-10. So what do we say? That is a
nice
predictions. So I do believe that the Chargers just had a great game here in the second half. But the first half, they just went down. Going through a recap here, they start off with a field goal off of a turnover on downs. Starts off 3-0, but the Raiders then respond. They score a touchdown off of a running back pass, 7-3. That ends the first quarter. It looks like the Chargers are having a struggling first quarter, and then both teams just go 3 and out. It seemed like this game was just not how it was supposed to go for either of these teams. The Chargers then get a fumble recovery, get a field goal off it. Cameron Dicker was doing the most points, getting the most points for the Chargers in this game. Then the Chargers, it just wasn't really their game until the second half, as the Chargers then got another field goal after halftime, 9-7. Then they get a fumble from the Raiders, which turns it back over to the Chargers, ending the third quarter. Then the Chargers just go off. J.K. Dobbins, he scores a touchdown at 16-7. The Raiders finally get some points on the board again. They get a field goal at 16-10. Then the Chargers score a passing touchdown, but they do miss the 2-point conversion, but it's 22-10. And there's just nothing else in this game. And the game just ended 22-10. But some news for the Chargers. Very good news. Starting off 1-0, Jim Harbaugh's bringing this amazing culture to this team. But Joe Alt, number one pick for the Chargers, Joe Alt did not allow a single pressure when going one-on-one with Max Crosby, which was very impressive. Max Crosby was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation last year. But Herbert did struggle. J.K. Dobbins was really the one who did the most work for this team. And in fantasy football, if J.K. Dobbins is not picked up, which in a lot of leagues he's not, go pick him up right now. Next week, the Chargers do play the Panthers. The Panthers are absolutely awful. They lost by almost 40 points this weekend. So I believe the Chargers are going to come out firing with Justin Herbert, 28-7. The Chargers win. Now moving into some news about the Raiders.
Raider Nation, stand up!
Now with the Raiders, Minshew struggled. He struggled in his first game and did not just have a great connection with Devontae Adams. He did have a connection with Brock Bowers, the first round pick for the Raiders, but overall they struggled. This was not a good game for them. Minshew threw a behind the back pass, which became a fumble for them. Just an awful outing for Gardner Minshew. And the Raiders do play the Ravens next week at 10 a.m. It looks awful. It's just the Raiders just will not have a chance in this game. I see 10-31. The Ravens are going to win. Going into some fantasy football, just keys for this game. Isaiah Likely had an amazing game last week. If he is not picked up in your league, go pick him up right now. He is looking like the main target in that Ravens offense. And for the Raiders, Alexander Mattison looked pretty good. He got a lot of the carries instead of Zamir White. A lot of people were interested about that because Alexander Mattison had a bad season with the Vikings last year, but now he had a great year a great first game with the Raiders. So it seems like he might be a good fantasy pickup. If you need a running back, you need somebody to fill in your flex spot, maybe Alexander Mattison is a guy to go with. And moving into now, we're going to be going to Monday Night Football, which is the 49ers.
Droopy on the beat. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Now, going through the Niners game this weekend, my prediction for this game was not exactly how this game turned out. As the prediction, I had the Jets winning 28-17. The final score was 32-19, 49ers win, and we call that a predictions. So I'm just going to go into this right now with a game recap. The game starts with a turnover from Breece Hall. Fred Warner absolutely smacks the ball, just punching it. And so that was an amazing play from the 49ers defense, starting that momentum on their side. The 49ers defense seemed like a different team. Last year, they were struggling at the beginning of the season. This year, no struggles at all. The 49ers then they settle for a field goal to go up 3-0. Then the Jets, same exact thing that happened in the Chargers-Raiders game. The Jets went down. They scored a touchdown off a Breece Hall run, 7-3, ended the first quarter. It seemed like it was a struggling game for the Niners, but then they just took off. The 49ers, they went down. They settled for a field goal. The Jets go 3-and-out. Then Deebo Samuel scored to take the lead 13-7. Then another 3-and-out from the Jets. Great defense from the 49ers. The 49ers then drive down, go and get another field goal before halftime, bringing the lead 16-7. And then the second half starts, and Jordan Mason, this was a big game for him. So Christian McCaffrey was out for this game. He was out with a calf injury, and Jordan Mason took over. He scores a go-ahead touchdown for the Niners to extend the lead 23-7. Then Rodgers throws an interception. There's a lot of memes that are going out with Rodgers right now. He actually looks at the camera, and it looks like he's looking at you, telling you threw the interception, which I thought was pretty funny. But Aaron Rodgers, he does throw an interception off a bobbled ball to give the ball back to the 49ers. Then the 49ers go get another field goal. If you were playing Jake Moody in fantasy football this week, I feel so sorry for you. For myself, same. I had Jordan Mason in my lineup. He played awesome, 23 points. Jake Moody scored 26. It was absolutely ridiculous for fantasy football owners. Then Rodgers, he gets his first touchdown as a Jet, throwing it off a free play to Allen Lazard, bringing that lead a little bit less for the 49ers, 13-26, but they missed the 2-point conversion to try to bring it a little bit closer. Then the 49ers settle for another field goal, 29-13. The Jets have to punt, and the 49ers get another field goal. As you can see, Jake Moody having a night. And that was it. The game was over, 32-13. It really was over at that point. Tyrod Taylor then came into the game for Aaron Rodgers, scored a touchdown, but that was it. It was over. Brandon Allen kneels it, and the game was over. And going into the news for next week, Christian McCaffrey is going to be out again against the Vikings. But if Jordan Mason plays as well as he did this last week, there will be nothing to even talk about. Jordan Mason looked amazing against the Jets, and the Jets have a way better defense than the Vikings. So in fantasy football, as I said, if you need a flex position, get Jordan Mason. He will score you above 15 points. And that'll be the end of our football recap. Our next song we are going to be listening to is Butterfly Effect by Travis Scott. You're listening to 88.5 KSBR HD2 Saddleback College Radio. My name is Carter Kirchhevel. You're listening to Catching Up with Carter. Hello and welcome back to Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2. You're listening to Catching Up with Carter by Carter Kirchhevel, and you were just listening to Butterfly Effect by Travis Scott, and we're going into our college football recap for USC, UCLA, and of course Saddleback College Football. Now we're going to be starting with USC. Now, USC had one of those games where you probably didn't need to tune in, but we're going to talk about it anyway. USC played against Utah State and won 48-0. This is one of those games that USC is showing themselves as one of those teams that should be in that top 10 conversation in the AP rankings. Now, going into a quick game recap, we start off the game. Marks has a great game, but has a great first drive, although they end up settling for a field goal, 3-0. Utah State punted, I believe, 9 9 times during this game, giving the ball back to USC every single time. Joyner then scores for USC, bringing the lead to 10-0, end of the first quarter. Then Utah State has to punt at the beginning of the game, then Marks with another touchdown run brings the lead to 17-0. Utah State has to punt then yet again. USC then fumbles, turning the ball over, which was one of those plays that you're just like, why is this happening to USC? We're already dominating this game. Why are we fumbling the ball in the middle of just one of these quarters that should be, okay, we're putting up the points. But later, they end up doing it. Even though that fumble happens, USC then gets the ball back off a punt. USC then settles for another field goal, bringing the game to 20-0. They get an interception to take the ball right back. Then a screen pass to Lemon brings the lead to 27-0 before halftime. Halftime score, 27-0. Dominating game from Miller Moss and this offense. Then USC starts with the ball, scores off a run to Joyner, which brings the lead to 34-0. Then Utah State has to punt. After this, Miller Moss, he's subbed out. He's out for the game. And then Jaden Mavia, he subs in and runs in for a touchdown, bringing it 41-0. Utah State punts yet again, and Peterson scores a touchdown for USC on a good run up the middle, making it 48-0. Now, although that game was very, very boring to watch, it was showing how dominant USC is in this game. They should be taken seriously. They absolutely crushed Utah State, and now they are ranked as the 11th team, and they're going to be playing Michigan, the ranked 17th team. And so for USC, I believe this is the game. This is the game that cements themselves as a top 10 team. If they can beat Michigan, the winners of the last year's national championship, USC will put themselves in that conversation. So for my prediction this week, I'm saying 27-24, USC wins and keeps the streak alive, going 3-0 to start the season and hopefully bringing themselves up in the rankings. Next, we're going to be talking about UCLA. Now, for UCLA, they did not have a game this week, but they do have a game in 2 days on Saturday where they play against Indiana. And UCLA, they are the underdog in this game. They right now Indiana is supposed to win 58.4% is that percentage of the time that UCLA, they're really not the team right now. They struggled against Hawaii, and I just believe that Indiana is probably going to take this game, but I do believe it is going to be closer than you believe. I have a prediction, 31-24. The Indiana Hoosiers will win it, but I do believe that we'll see some flashes from Garbers. I believe that UCLA will show something. I believe Toya on that defensive line will be fine, but I do believe that this game is one of those ones that Indiana is supposed to win. And so UCLA, not going to win it this time, but I believe they will have a little bit of a growth throughout the season. Although they are 1-0, I believe it's going to be 1-1 for this weekend. And for Rourke, for Indiana, during these last 2 games, he's passed for a total of 448 yards and 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns and 448 yards. That is nothing compared to Garber's stats this year. He is by far the better quarterback out of the 2. So I'm going to take that QB, that prediction again, 31-24 for the Indiana Hoosiers. And now we're going to be moving into Saddleback College Football, where they lost their first game against Ventura again, sadly. Last year, that score was 42-37, and this year, 49-34, seeming like the exact type of score that happened last year. And they did have a good fourth quarter, but they just struggled in the first 3 as they allowed 21 points in the first quarter. Their next game is this weekend on Saturday against Santa Barbara, so we're hoping to see some growth from this Saddleback College football team. So make sure to go to that game this Saturday and just support your Bobcats. Now, we are going to be going into a few songs, Am I Dreaming by Metro Boomin and Nights Like This by The Kid Leroy. My name is Carter Kirchhevel. You're listening to Catching Up with Carter here on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 KSBR. Hello and welcome back to 88.5 Saddleback College Radio here on 88.5 HD2. My name is Carter Kirchhevel. You're listening to Catching Up with Carter, and we just talked about NFL, our LA teams, and also UCLA, USC, and of course, Saddleback College Football. But we're going to be going into our NFL matchups and going over the predictions I had last week and seeing how close I was, which I probably was not. But we're going to start off with Thursday Night Football with the Ravens Chiefs. So we have our prediction. We said 28-17 Ravens were going to win, and that final was nowhere close. It was absolutely trash. And so for the Chiefs, they won this game 20-17. Very close. This game was super fun to watch on Thursday night. This is a great opener, but there were a lot of flags that were not called on the Chiefs that were called on the Ravens. Illegal formation was called, it felt like 25 to 30 times. And so for the Chiefs, they did win this one. Isaiah Likely, if he wore a white cleat, that's what everyone keeps saying because he was barely out of bounds but was wearing black cleats. So everyone was saying if you wore white cleats, it would have blended in to the sideline, but it did not. So it was not a touchdown there to bring it to overtime. So for the Chiefs, they won this one. And so this was just one of those games where you thought that the Ravens were going to win it. Just did not happen. The Chiefs just took over. And so for me, I was watching this game, and if you're talking about fantasy football, Xavier Worthy, if he is not in your starting lineup, you got to put him there right now. Tyreek Hill type of level of player. He's so fast. On his first touch of the football, he scored a touchdown. So that was just an awesome first game. Now going into our second game was the Packers-Eagles. And so for this one, I said the Eagles were going to win 31-24, and the final was 34-29. So that was a pretty good prediction. It was
nice.
So I just believe that this game was average. It was nothing too crazy, but it was very, very sad for Packers fans as Jordan Love went down with an injury, and hopefully he'll be back. It says 6 weeks on a flipped meniscus, so we're hoping that he'll be back. But the Eagles, they were showing why they should be a top 5 football team. They played super good football. They played amazing with Saquon Barkley, which is one of those trades that was very just a question mark for a lot of people because we didn't know, is Saquon Barkley going to be good on a new team, on a team that likes to pass the football? But we saw the team do well. We did see some struggles from the center as Jason Kelce just did retire. The new center snapped the ball and caused a fumble for Jalen Hurts. So some struggles, but not too bad. Moving into Sunday now as we start off with the Steelers-Falcons. Now, for this game was just really, really weird. So for the prediction, I had the Falcons winning 21-14. Ended up that the Steelers won 18-10. So it was a prediction. And so for the Steelers themselves, they had Justin Fields playing. Russell Wilson was out with an injury. And so Russell Wilson, he was out, Justin Fields in, and Justin Fields won the game. Really, he didn't. The offense didn't really do anything. It was 18 points of Chris Boswell kicking the football into the uprights. Same thing with Jake Moody. If you had Chris Boswell on your team, you are praising him. He had over 25 points this week in fantasy football. And so for this game, really, it just showed that Kirk Cousins struggled. He did not have a good connection with his players. It really was not good. He threw some horrible footballs, and that offensive line struggled against the good defensive line of the Steelers. So that's another bad prediction from me. Moving into the next one is another 10 a.m. game, the Cardinals-Bills. Now, this one was my upset of the week. I said the Cardinals were going to win 24-21, but it ended up that my prediction was trash. And so the Bills, they won 34-28. They showed, Josh Allen showed out. He played the best football he could. He played like nobody else. He did amazing. He was on my fantasy football team, so I was happy about that. But for Josh Allen, he just showed why the Bills should be in that conversation of being a good team. Still, though, the Cardinals put up a fight. They scored 28 points. They did a great job, but Marvin Harrison Jr., only 1.7 fantasy points for him. A very struggling week. Just 4 fantasy football owners of Marvin Harrison Jr. So the Cardinals, I do believe that they will have some upcoming better weeks, but for this one, this was just sad. It was so close. I believe that they were going to take this one, but it just didn't happen. Now, moving into our next game is Titans-Bears. And so the Bears did win this game, and my prediction for it was 14-10 Bears, and the final was 24-17 Bears. So we call that a
nice.
Prediction. So for the Bears themselves, we just have right now, it was 24-17. The Bears won. And so the Bears themselves, they had a great game coming out of it. And so the Bears themselves winning this game just showed a great game. Just a great team. They played very good football, and so I believe that if we're going to look at this from a good standpoint for Caleb Williams, he did struggle early, but it was just not really a good game for him. He had less yards, maybe 60 yards themselves. And so if we could just maybe get some more yardage from him, maybe some good passing yards, maybe it could be a better game. And so going into the next one is Patriots-Bengals. This was the weirdest football game I have ever seen. The Bengals had an amazing year last year. Even without Joe Burrow, they just had some good games. And so for Joe Burrow himself, I believe that he just struggled. He did awful. My prediction was 28-7 Bengals, and the final was 16-10 Patriots. And we call that a trash prediction and just a trash game in general. So the Bengals, they've got to do something. In these 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of football for them are just so bad. I don't understand what's going on with them, but the Bengals themselves, they need to figure it out. The Patriots as well, they showed why they are actually a decent football team. Ramondre Stevenson played very well. If you're looking at fantasy football, trying to figure out, should I start Ramondre Stevenson? Do it. He played amazing, did a great job for the Patriots, and because of the struggles at QB, the Patriots need a good run game. Moving into the next, this game was so good. Texans-Colts. Now for my prediction, Texans were going to win 21-14, and the final was 29-27, and that's why this game was just super good. And we call that prediction
Nice.
And so the Texans, they win this game, but oh my goodness, Anthony Richardson. He is so good. He threw the ball so far, it looked like he was insane. He looked like superhuman. We're going to call him Superman by week 5. He threw bombs every single time. Alec Pierce looked like Julio Jones out there. Just an amazing plays from both sides of the football, but the Texans just had more talent. Joe Mixon, if you were playing against Joe Mixon in fantasy, I feel bad for you because he did amazing this week. So for myself, Texans, they look like they have a good start of this season, and the same for the Colts. They look very good with Anthony Richardson. Now, moving into the next game, it has a little bit of a storyline behind it, is Jaguars-Dolphins. Now, if you didn't know, before the game, Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill was pulled over for reckless driving and then had a little bit of a scuffle, and if you want to, you can watch that on your own and make your own assumptions or look onto what happened, but ended up, he got to the stadium, did play, and my prediction was 31-10 Dolphins. I believe they were going to crush them, but it wasn't like that. They did win. They did win 20-17. So that prediction is
nice.
And so the Dolphins, they played great. They did end up winning this one. They did end up playing good in the second half, but that first half was awful. Looked like the Jaguars should have won, and they just choked it. So that final, 20-17 Dolphins. Now moving into, I probably would say the worst game of the week. Absolutely awful. I said this was going to be a crapshoot of a game. I said 10-7 Saints was going to be the final score. I thought it was going to be awful, but final score was 47-10 Saints. So it still is a
nice
prediction, but it was just not fun to watch. Just awful. 47 points from the Saints. You let up 47 points. The Panthers are absolutely horrible. That's all I have to say for that one. I can't talk anymore about it. Now moving into the Vikings-Giants. Now the Vikings are one of those teams that is going to be a dark horse later in this season. They played super well. My prediction was 21-17 Vikings, but the final was 28-6 Vikings. Great game from them and a
nice
prediction. And so for the Vikings themselves, I can see the vision. I see Sam Darnold playing a big role in this team, and I believe they're going to have a good season. Maybe not over 10 wins, but 10 wins I think it's feasible. I think it's going to happen. I think that the Vikings are going to make that playoff spot, that last little playoff spot, maybe the 7th seed, but they still will. And I believe Justin Jefferson has something to do with that. Aaron Jones played very well for the Vikings after coming from that Packers Packers system, played very well. Now moving into the next, Broncos, Seattle, and the Seahawks. My prediction was 24-14, and this is probably my closest prediction. Final is 26-20. That is a
Nice.
prediction. And so Seattle won 26-20. One of those games that you probably would have expected the Broncos to win. 2 safeties forced by the defense. Seattle took 2 safeties and won this game by 6 points. That is ridiculous that you can allow them to win the game after 2 safeties. That's all I got to say for the Broncos. Now one of those games that Tom Brady was on the broadcast for the Cowboys-Browns, and my prediction was that the Cowboys were going to win 30-14. The final score was 33-17. So a pretty good prediction, a pretty
Nice.
prediction. And so the Cowboys, they start off 1-0. Just a great game. I can't say much more than that. Just a great game from the Cowboys, and I believe that they're going to just keep rolling during this regular season. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. Deshaun Watson looked awful for the Browns, but other than that, Cowboys looked great. And going into our last game that we covered for this last weekend is Cowboys-Buccaneers. This is one of those games where you believed it was going to be closer. For myself, I said Buccaneers 21-14. Final score was 37-20. So it was still a win for the Buccaneers. So it was a
Nice.
prediction. And so the Buccaneers, they played amazing. Baker Mayfield showed why the Browns shouldn't have traded him. Played a great role, and Jaden Daniels on the other side for Washington played amazing as well. I don't have any scuffle with either of them. They played great football, and I believe that Washington, they're going to be a good team. The Buccaneers just played better football today, and so for the Bucs, I believe that they're going to have one of those, the same type of things as the Vikings. They'll be one of those wild card teams, maybe even win the division, as Kirk Cousins looks awful with the Falcons. I think the Bucs could probably win that division over there. So for that NFL prediction, we're going to be going into our predictions for this coming week. So Thursday night football, Bills versus Dolphins. My prediction is 28-21 Bills. Moving into Sunday night football, 10 a.m. game, Saints Cowboys. This is one of those games Cowboys are going to take it. Prediction 34-17. The Buccaneers versus Lions. This is one of those games, another rematch for the Lions in the playoffs. I believe the Lions will take it again, 24-14 Lions. Moving into the next, it is Colts versus Packers, and I believe the Packers are going to win this one, even without Jordan Love. I think the Packers are going to win this one. This will be the upset of the week, 21-17 Packers. Browns versus Jaguars. I believe the Jags are going to crush the Browns. The Browns look absolutely awful, and so I believe the Browns are just not a good team. They're just awful. Deshaun Watson looks horrible. They need Nick Chubb back ASAP. The Jaguars will win 27-10. Even though they struggled last week against the Dolphins, they played a decent amount of football in that first half. Pretty good football. And moving into the next, Seahawks Patriots, going back to Super Bowl XLIX, and the prediction is 20-17 Seattle. I believe it'll be closer than people believe because Seattle, same thing with the Broncos. It was very close, but the Patriots just aren't as good of a team. Even though they beat the Bengals are horrible weeks 1 and 2. I don't know what's going on with them. Then Jets versus Titans. Prediction 27-20 Jets. I think that's self-explanatory. I think the Titans will do okay maybe in the second half, but I think it'll be probably 27-7 for most of the game. And then Giants versus Commanders. Commanders will win 17-3. Daniel Jones looks awful for the Giants. Absolutely horrible. Now moving into the 1 p.m. games, Steelers versus Broncos. Prediction 17-14 Steelers. They'll be closer, but I do believe that defense for the Steelers is unstoppable. TJ Watt got basically 3 sacks, only 1 counted, but got 3 sacks, a strip sack during that game against the Falcons. Just a great defense. I can't not go for them in this game. I can't say that the Steelers are going to lose. Then Bengals Chiefs. That game, we know that it's the AFC Championship rematch from a few years ago, but the Chiefs are going to win. The Bengals look awful weeks 1 and 2, and so the Chiefs, I believe they're going to win 28-7. I think it's going to be a crushing game. I think Xavier Worthy is going to get involved, and it's over. Now moving to Sunday Night Football, Bears versus Texans. Prediction 21-10 Texans. I think it's self-explanatory. I think Caleb Williams will struggle against that Texans defense. Maybe it'll be closer than I believe, but I don't believe so. I think it'll be 21-10 final score. And our last prediction, Monday Night Football, Falcons versus Eagles, the Birds against each other. Prediction 31-21 Eagles. That is our NFL predictions for this week. Going back, during my predictions for the first week, I was over 500, and that's why they call me.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
And so let's hope that I'm the GOAT again next week. You are listening to Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 HD2. My name is Carter Kirchhevel. You're listening to Catching Up with Carter. Next, we're going to be listening to Visions by Ave and Safari Riot. We'll be back in just a few minutes. You were just listening to Visions by Age and Safari Riot. My name is Carter Kirchhevel. You're listening to Catching Up with Carter here on Saddleback College Radio. And that is the end of our show today as we went through all of the games for this coming weekend and last weekend for the NFL. Of course, we are going to be watching all NFL and college football. It'll be very exciting this weekend as there are so many good matchups for both of these teams. And going through some matchups again, we've got the Rams as they are going to be playing the Cardinals. And my prediction, 24-21 Rams win. For the Chargers, they're going to win against the Panthers 28-7. For the Raiders, they are sadly going to lose 10-31 to the Ravens. And last but not least, the 49ers are going to win against the Vikings 34-14 next week against the Vikings. And so that is the end of our show. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Carter Kirchhevel. We have 2 more songs for you to listen to. Bye 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 by NSYNC and $1 Million Baby by Tommy Richman. Again, my name is Carter Kirchhevel. You're listening here on Saddleback College Radio, 88.5 KSBR HD2.